So Todd White has been a serial entrepreneur and creator since he was 17. He also wants me to mention that he, like many other successful entrepreneurs, is a high school dropout. I myself am a multiple times college dropout. I'm proud of it. He runs an organization and is the founder of an organization called Dry Farm Wines. And he's really passionate about, as he says, unlocking the best ways to enjoy alcohol. Dry Farm Wines is the only health quantified wine merchant in the world that biohacks wine. He's a self-described biohacker, practices meditation, Wim Hof breathing, cold thermogenesis, and a slew of other really interesting life hacking practices. So I'm really interested to hear what he has to say about biohacking wine, killing your hangover. Please join me in welcoming Todd White. Ooh. We have your show. We're going to get your show together presently. I'm going to help you get your show together presently while you say hi to people.
I felt really good this morning until I just learned about 15, 20 minutes ago that I was following a guy named John Smart, right, who was going to talk about the future. And I just came here to talk about drinking. So is there any drinkers in the crowd? All right. Awesome. We have a show. It's not John Smart.
Not John. You're done, John.
Let's see.
Oh, was it on this?
No, it's, I don't know. I'm not the tech guy.
Yeah, me neither. Dune, if you can hear my voice, come and find me on the main stage. Dune, if you can hear my voice. There we are. Hey, help us out. Just can't find it.
Thanks. No problem. Yes. Enjoy drinking. That's the back slide. We need to go to the front.
Don't see this part. Look here. Hey.
I have very simple slides, and I was glad that when I got here and I saw the light and the projection, I was super glad that they were super simple. So I came here today to talk about healthy drinking, and I'm going to add quite a few biohacking biohacking techniques and a journey down my world of biohacking while I'm here talking about wine, and we'll talk about what biohacking means. But before we get started, I have a confession to make. I am a hedonist. Do we have any fellow hedonists? Awesome. I'm a hedonist. I'm a person who seeks pleasure. I've been super interested in food and wine since I was a kid. My parents used to accuse me of ordering the most expensive thing in a restaurant we went into because I was just so into food. And I've been drinking since I was probably about 10, I'm afraid to report, and have had a lifelong love affair with wine. A few of my pleasures: service to others. As you evolve in age, I'm now in my mid-50s. I started studying biohacking when I was in my late 30s in an attempt to slow down the aging process. But as you evolve, your values change. My pleasures now, my number one pleasure is the service to others and helping people learn and create. Creating cool shit, biohacking, and wine remain among my pleasures. Biohacking, I want to talk a moment about what biohacking means for those who don't have a lot of experience with it. Biohacking was a term largely attributed to Dave Asprey, the developer of the Bulletproof Diet and the Bulletproof Conference. We're also the only alcohol and the only wine approved by Bulletproof for service at their conference or endorsement in any of their programs. Biohacking is the art and science of optimizing the neurological and biological effects of behavior. So figuring out how to hijack and live a better, more optimized life day in and day out. A few of my favorite biohacks: meditation is by far the number one. Meditation is the foundation for everything that moves forward from my perspective, and that meditation gives you that clarity and removes that noise, the trauma of thinking, removes that noise that allows you to have open and welcome space for the foundation of everything else that moves forward. I'm on a ketogenic diet. So ketogenic is kind of far leaning as diets go. It's an extension of the bulletproof diet. Ketogenic is a high fat. 75 to 80% of my calories come from healthy fats, primarily olive oil and coconut oil. I do intermittent fasting daily, which means that I take windows of 18 hours between eating, my dinner meal and my next meal, and then I eat again within a 6-hour window. I do breath training, primarily the Wim Hof method. Breath training is really also one of the most important things that we can do, because it gives us a real association with life. So I don't know if any of you have done any breath training, but I highly recommend breathing. I do cold thermogenesis, which is ice baths and cold showers and cold lake swimming and crazy shit like that. Slow training and high intensity training. Smiling at other people. If everybody could just smile at me for a moment. You know, there's a neurochemical association with smiling. It makes you feel good, makes everybody else feel good. So smiling is one of the great biohacks of all time. And then finally, I think along with meditation, and this relates to the wine program, and so I left it last, is the dynamics of subtraction. And what that means to me is, most often in life, I find that the greatest advancements are achieved by what we take away from life, not what we add to it. And so when we start removing things, this is when we have space to receive abundance. This is when we have space to think and clarity and peace, when we start removing complication from our life. Maybe that's a relationship, maybe it's a job, maybe it's a place that you live, maybe it's a poor nutrition program. But when you start removing things like the white devil, sugar, rice, flour, corn, and potatoes, when you remove those things from your life, then you have an enhancement in moving forward. So I think that the dynamics of subtraction are very, very powerful. I have 10 minutes left. Biohacking wine. I want to teach you quickly how to enhance your buzz, save your brain, and kill your hangover. Hangovers are highly overrated. I don't like hangovers. I don't recommend them. I've wasted a lot of time with hangovers until I figured all this out. So I started biohacking wine because I couldn't drink wines, standard wines anymore. I couldn't drink the way I wanted to drink. I didn't want to drink any less often or any less volume. So I figured out how to biohack wine and get around that. Here are the causes of hangovers. Alcohol is number one. Unnatural processed factory products, which makes up 99% of all wines on the planet, are number two. Histamines, and I'll tell you about those in a moment. Excess tannins of wood compounds, additives and chemicals. We'll cover this, but there's 76 chemical additives approved by the FDA for the use in winemaking. And they're rampantly used throughout the winemaking world. I live in the heart of the Napa Valley, and I've been making wine for 15 years. High sugars, most commercial wines are high in sugar. And then what does not cause hangovers, although contrary to popular belief and kind of the myth, is sulfites. Sulfites are not the cause of hangovers. For people who have sulfite allergies, it's a very serious allergy. It's not the cause of hangovers. This is the number of wines to drink still left in my life. This is the number of bottles. Now I calculate this because I believe I'm going to live another 50 years or more. I drink 1.25 bottles of wine per day. So if you calculate that out, I have just over 25,000 bottles of wine left yet to drink. Yeah, it's good work. I want to talk about alcohol for a moment. It's toxic. Alcohol is a poison. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage. So dosage matters when you drink. And I really want to stay in this area. So when you're drinking and you're in that state of euphoria, here's what alcohol does. And I talk on podcasts. I just was on a podcast with Dave Asprey of Bulletproof the other week, and we talk about, Dave has historically been anti-alcohol. And we talk about what alcohol does that's bad for you. But I also want to talk about what alcohol does that's good for you. So alcohol is best enjoyed in moderate amounts. So you have that lift in euphoria. You've got a diminishment of so inhibitions come down, euphoria comes up, and so that's why we have bonding, right? So we have this common thread of bonding, and that's a wonderful thing. So it makes us a little more vulnerable. So we're more likely to kind of share vulnerabilities with one another. Those things allow us to bond. We're social animals. So alcohol just kind of makes all that easier. And that's a very positive aspect to what alcohol does socially. It can also kill you, right? So dosage matters. Let me talk quickly about what biohacking wine means and what a healthy natural wine is. There are hundreds of thousands of winemakers worldwide. There are about 500 who make wines categorically the way we drink wines and the kind of wines that we buy and sell. And the kind of wines that I drink every day that produce zero hangover, zero brain fog, and no stupid behavior, right? So let me just give you some facts about commercial wines and what makes for a healthy natural wine. Wine is grown in the vineyard. That's where things should always be natural and organic. Intervention in the vineyards begin with irrigation. So all of our wines are dry farmed. I want to drink a wine that is whole, pure, and natural. And the first place of intervention begins with water, with irrigating a vine. Second places of intervention are chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers. So all of our wines are 100% chemical-free, all organic or biodynamic. That's all I drink. That's all I would recommend that you drink. The problem with this is that these wines are hard to find. And there's no labeling on wines. The alcohol industry has fought very vigorously to keep labels off of wine. They don't want you to know what's in it, right? So you think it's just grape juice. Well, my friends, it is not. Not unless it's a naturally made product like the ones I'm describing. So there's a whole bunch I'm not going to cover all these, but there's just a whole bunch of things that go into making a natural wine. 99% of all wine consumed in the U.S. is a highly processed factory product. Over 99%. 51%, to illustrate that, 51% of all the wines made in the U.S. are made by just 3 giant companies. Just 3 make over half of all the wine sold in the U.S. Now, they don't want you to know that. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're pretty smart. They don't want you to know about that, so they hide behind thousands of brands and labels that make you think you're drinking at a fucking chateau or a farmhouse, right? But in fact, you're drinking a highly processed factory product. 80% of all wine consumed in the U.S. is made by the top 30 companies. Top U.S. additives include a coloring agent called Mega Purple. You guys ever had purple teeth from drinking red wine? Super dark, rich red wine, that may be the cause. Also, commercial wines are very high in sugar. They range from 0 grams per liter to as high as 300 grams per liter. Reference point, Coke is 108 grams per liter. That gives you an idea. About the same as orange juice, by the way. Preventing hangovers, brain health, and maximizing pleasure. So I want to talk real quickly about this issue. Pore size is really, really important in wine enjoyment. So if you go into a restaurant, they're going to pour your glass up to here. Now, there's 2 reasons for that, maybe several reasons. A, if they're pouring you by the glass, they want you to feel like you got a good value and you want a big pour, right? But it doesn't really allow you to properly enjoy the experience of the aromatics of wine when you don't have enough headspace in the glass. So this looks like a really small serving. That's about 2.5 ounces, but that's the proper amount to drink in a wine glass. Now, the amount of wine is going to depend upon the size of the bowl in the glass. But for a standard glass, that's about a 2.5 ounce pour. That gives you plenty of room, what we would call headspace, to enjoy that wine. Also, if you're in a restaurant, control your bottle. Don't let the server pour you. He's in the business of selling wine. not your wine enjoyment. And when you have a smaller pour size, you're going to be more mindful about the amount that you're drinking. Occasionally there are glorious exceptions. We all have them. These typically happening at weddings, bachelor parties, and other glorious events. So I call them glorious exceptions. They have them. We all have this kind of special fun, but it's reserved, I think, for only occasional endeavors. So keep in mind those occasions. Finally, I want to close with, this is the reason I'm glad I didn't use a lot of fancy slides and photographs because of the lighting, but this is a dinner table, a paleo dinner table, I might add, that has a toast and wine glasses. And so I really want to encourage you, when you think about drinking, to think about keeping, first of all, beginning with a low alcohol product. So all the natural wines that we sell are 12.5% alcohol by volume or lower. Most standard wines are 14 to 16%. So if you want to have a microdose or a managed dose of alcohol, it's really critically important to begin with a much lower alcohol product in the beginning, because what you want to be able to do is spend the entire evening drinking wine. If you're like me, you probably don't want to microdose or use moderate wine by having one glass stretched out over the evening. I'd rather have 5 glasses stretched out over the evening with a much lower alcohol product. So most of us just don't have one drink. Alcohol is a domino drug, so it kind of pulls us in. So the more we drink, the more we want. The higher the alcohol goes, the further down that slippery slope we go. But anyway, so I always like to say, enjoy, be social, bond with your friends, drink as a mindful hedonist, always tell your friends that you love them. I'm grateful for your time. I hope you learned something. Thank you.